Ari tuzuta gari sekanuri. Ari mete tuzuta gari stis senang.
Doctor rang mendo yenang Croatia nang shin tukcha mari.
Okay.
Croatia ko doctor mari. Ta kama sum titela ko so tsam.
The Spain the Portugal the.
Den insel. Was gerade in der Distok. Kama chochanga.
Ja. Do. Dorji gote ke chang kalete maso.
Mari.
Okay.
Ja, bodo.
Tandak no. Go to here. Chen dong go me ga. Kato lo cho ga me. Oh, that's good afternoon la go kara. Guten Tag kara la.
Good afternoon.
Guten Tag yo ma.
Good day. Nah, good afternoon is good.
Guten Tag. English no guten Tag, ja. Good afternoon. Guten Nachmittag. Ja?
Yep.
Tatana shor sati kala la to semba shor. To go the kala shor. Kala the to go shor so. To semba the kala shor kala the to go shor. Ta shor mambo shor so ta. Shor sa yet na ne. Tene tambo shi le shor wa se te. Terindo sitendu. Shi shor las. Zogne Horwane Nyandes Zone Nam Chinche Par Shibs Shi Yene Madopar Tajepe Tonso Konar Shimbane Yeshor Lavano Nyamni Chekapso Chutamje Madopao Nyamte Mepar Gombane Tarshor Los.
Dit is deze kabel, sir.
The she shores, he the shore was the zone Nam Chinche Par, Shibs, she, Zok Hoa, Nam Chinsi, the Sanje, Hoa Nyan de Par, the Shibs, she, Yen and Madopa, Tadan Company, you go so. Okay. Oh, Taji, but don't so corner Shimban, Diming the Yeshore Laura. Tani nyamni sipakap su chutam di madapao nyaga ji de mepar gomba ne chart shorwa sin ho te shi shortam chart shoros.
So we have talked about this loss being lost. So and now our mind was lost to the food, and the food got lost in the stomach, and now there's more loss to come. And there's 4 kinds actually. The first one is we have said being lost in the natural state, and so that is to on a fundamental level to believe that nothing really inherently memorially exists. That is the state of samsara, and the omniscient state of nirvana doesn't exist, and there is this bias towards emptiness on a very fundamental level, and that is called being lost on the fundamental level, and then or the primordial level. And then the second kind is when we are still on the path of practicing, and here also we think that all those phenomena do not really exist. So here we are more lost in more of a shallow denial.
Saja cembo ngadin dan denatini shine dan lantong de ser sama Desia de Munis Chixin Chancel Manka Juris. Yena Yan Katang Rambochin the Gomti the Sama, Top Sonte into Chap Sama Top Sana, Maomba Chiran Sotina Noni, Care Tab de Care Lela, Care Hakwate, Dor Dubanya Nisi Chores, Ko Sama Top Sadu, Tessenang Hotring Sama de Ma Ramba Yin Rondo, you tell a Tambo Capsutic still Kale Yores. Then do Hotine certainly.
So as we also mentioned yesterday, these teachings on shamata and vipashyana are based on the fivefold path of Mahamudra instructions, and so maybe by now it seems a bit overwhelming and just too much information. But also I myself just recently have received the meditation instructions completely from Rinpoche, and so just in a similar way now you're receiving those instructions, and now you have received all those instructions in a complete way, and then in the future you actually can just take whatever comes easy to you, whatever you understand, whatever is practical for you for your actual practice. So you can apply what is helpful to you for your own practice. And so for this reason I'm really giving you the whole outline, everything that's included in here, all the stages. It just might be a little bit a lot or a bit difficult in the beginning.
Yes. Okay. But you have everything. Samsara and the Nirvana. Oh yeah. Tani battery. Nimbor Shorwal. Nimbola Shorwasi. Do. Denusum. Jude yes. Doju. Soje. Chunam. Namba Kund, Nibo Konatang, Doju Chu Tamjet, Tuta Namba Kund, Nibo, Numumbo Nibo Konatang, Sem Namdo Nibo, Numumbo Nibo, Numong so Baza Konara, Toban, Yehota, then the Dojuke, Chu, the Sotama Numumba, the Namdoke, Nibo la pass on the tick, the Numumba Patama Bango, Konara, Topane, Yehori. Numong tang namdo ke nimbos, numong ba tang namdo ke nimbola, saja chimbo gomgu sanga gomba den chard shoros.
So that was the first point, the first way of going astray, and so on a fundamental and then also temporary basis. And the second one is to go astray in terms of the antidotes and being lost in the antidotes. And so that is now on the fundamental level first. It is when we receive those teachings on the sutras, for example, the 3 scripture collections, and in the tantric teachings, the 4 classes of tantra and so on. And we apprehend all of these dharma instructions, these teachings, as being an antidote to the afflictive emotions and the thoughts in our mind. And so therefore we think of the afflictions as something that is to be abandoned, especially now in the sutra path, for example. According to that path, all the dharma is an antidote, and there is this a fundamental idea of that there is a need that afflictions and thoughts must be abandoned or rejected. So that's on the fundamental level, and then more on the momentary level. Is that being lost in the antidote means that to think that the meditation on Mahamudra, I must practice Mahamudra. So this is a concept, yet I must practice Mahamudra as an antidote to the afflictions and the thoughts.
Lamda Shorvatella, Yetella, Nempartawatang, Yelam Deus Yurva, Lamda Pamaras Javatan, Yemangi.
later kare.
Yeah.
Re khasumsu.
Tara the same kurang ke mangite. Ngemba tawa ta.
Ngemba tawa des.
Ngemba la tawa. Ngemba.
Te tawa.
Tawa ha. Ngemba la ta ya ta. Lam se ya te pa za yimba. Ndeva zambo se ya te topar te yene showares. Tata saja chembo gomba lam se ne. Si du dele yimbe chuko top derevan chardo shoro saja chembo nyamne sine teni dijila karesina chuko tobya rewa siaten chardo shoro redo te ta nyumu barwa redo se per la mando madega per la dandara sere ta ten rob go samya rewa tan rob mari samne topate te chom namdore te endi te chardo shoro res.
Ni jede ngemba de kansa da gare.
Ye ngemba da was kare. Sem
ngemba.
Nelok. Ja.
Ja.
Ye korak. Chuchi ura. Te dukares, te pangore.
Ye korbachuda.
Ha, ye korbachu. Teni lam, teni ramba yin do ya te teni pangores. Ye korbachu la rela.
So then the third deviation is to be lost on the path, and on the fundamental level, that is that you regard the basis, which means the basis here refers to the phenomena of samsara. So basically, you are regarding samsaric phenomena as something negative. And so that's the basis. There is this view that things are negative. And then on the path, so we have basis, path, and result. So on the basis, you think things are negative. On the path, you therefore strive to abandon what is negative. And as a result, for the result, you have hopes, you have a wish to attain a good fruition, a good result. And that is called being lost on the path on a fundamental level. And then on the momentary level of being lost on the path is that when you are, as you're practicing the path of meditating in a state of Mahamudra, there is this, while you're meditating, as you're practicing, there is this hope of, or expectation of attaining the Dharmakaya. And for as long as there are hopes and fears, that is an afflicted state of mind. And there is, for example, this hope of I really want to accomplish that, or some kind of fear that I'm not going to accomplish it. So these are all concepts and doubts and hopes in the mind that are like a temporary, a momentary deviation on the path.
Jendebs shorwas tari tamatari yebate la jendebs shorwas te kare laundo sina honde ke chu tham jes har yulas homa yulas ye dema ne me par jendebas mama yorete ye dema ne meres ne jendebas hotavan tisa notavatene yene shorwas Dela Tagpa Sumji Nga Tabu Nupo Chartu Tony to Jang Jen the Patavan Charchoros Take a reason Tagpa number Sum Siat Terindo Latan Jinkor Tagpa Zetan Lomju Tagpa Latan Tingins in Tagpas in Tagpa Sum Rectil Telando Yang Temena Check Nuch Tagpa Yarekan Juji Semjin the Tapa, Latan Lamu. Teni Semk Ramji, Ju number Tapa. Hotela Tapa Sama Nabasum Lauren Dordena Takuni, Tipari Tende, Timena, Charchoros Yaderendo.
Tingubo, the Shobakare, the Tapasum,
Tapasum, ta wa sam da ko so
ta plan ha ko ri na ti chela khane
nga ta nga ke chin ji lam nu bo thar da tong ba ni da jang om so ba wa shu do shone shune da sin ze tan tram ji tong ba ni da chur sin tra chi na ba sang ma bon do wa ram ji ze nam ji ram ji tong ba ni do chur sin om wa hong ke pen om ki jang si zang ma si ai per si pe ma bo si hong ke yi shi le de zu ju si ya ti wo ra o te na tong ni to jang ne jian de ba ta ba na char de sho ro si
So then the fourth deviation is by, it says literally like deviating into like sealing like a certain assumption basically, and that is on the fundamental level to believe that those samsaric and nirvana, the phenomena of samsara and nirvana, then we say that they are all here, they exist. And now the deviation is that you have this assumption that they do primordially not exist. So there is this like assuming assumption of existence or non-existence, basically. So that's the fundamental deviation here. And the momentary deviation is when we also a momentary assumption that we have of what happens when we, for example, practice the four purities. And so that means we purify everything into emptiness. So there is those practices where we recite certain mantras, Svabhava mantra and so on, where we say all phenomena, everything, all the materials are purified, they all become empty. And so there is this grasping that we are purifying something into emptiness. And those three purities, now here, that refers to the purity of the deity, the mandala of the deity. The second one is the purity of purifying the substances or various enjoyments. And the third one is purification that happens through mantra and samadhi. And then another way of explaining those three purities is that the outer universe is purified is the pure celestial palace or the mandala, and the inner sentient beings are purified into gods and goddesses, and then the mind stream is a state of purity, becomes pure. So in any case, there's this assumption that something is going to be purified. For example, we say Om Ahung, by which we purify the substances. And with Om, for example, we purify, with Ah, we increase, and with Hung, then the substances transform into an ocean of like wisdom nectar. So we think that we are actually like fabricating something that is pure, this assumption. That is the momentary deviation.
Oh, yeah. 다 디 쇼사 이야데 찬네 다 고사 좀 스타르 고네 바데 냠니 시브캅스 테니 고사 신 고사 숨네 고사 숨데 가레리스나 데와라 고와 sarvala korwa mito pala korwa sin somyori ten de tambo devala korwa te choduk mengnawa na chi luik choduk yorde la devala sharwam tapen cha jawochi sahu na ya cha de na zo pa le zera de lo wo ma na yi zawa tab debe nyam sharwa lamd malong baras debe nyam sharwa lamd malong bar de da ko wang de sharwa xin ba de de dewa le xin ne gom sebe gom nyam ne sebe ne da dunga tamji pa sheyag dewa la xin hote chama de dik sosum de gore dewa la xin ba Tani nipa sarva la kor, deva la shin, sarva la kor seyate rang lu tang, ne kang tang des kang ba. Tani tong sum so ko jun tong tong sum si tong tang bo ji hiu jin jik tin tong nipa pa men jin bi jik tin tong sum ba tong sum tong gen jik tin seyate ten ta mang do wa mang tra sa ri tong sum so ko de jwa tong wa
Go to hun kana.
Go to jwa ngu sum ma tong wa
Only go to.
yang na yin ke sem ju kare sam da ha ko wa shi ba ko ni tin da ma da ke ja he de ba so yang so ke ko to ba tu to ba so tu ma yin pe ngu shi sha wa la han ta da gom nyam ni sip ka so ta da yong lo sa wa sha wa la ngom sar to ji ne ta nga pe ya po chong so nge te slo ni ko jo to son thong do yin ke kare sam da ha ko do kare ke ja he da nge ko thong do sin te sarwa sem sarwa ke nyam te la yang shin ba te 신바 오 시대 니바 들어와 다 선바데 미도바 고반에 초도 그 남도 가방 다 초도 그 남도의 파가 가 남도의 파방 가 버가서 동번냠 남도 가 버가서 동바향라 동번냠 상스 양 남도 메바 띵보 남도 메바 샘띵보 데라양 신바데 대 남지 름바 인더 드니 더캄 조캄 조미진 감섬도 제와래 탈람도 먼로베 새로 스타티솔 제와링 그 등문에 그 탈바다 탐지 진불람나 먼로베 세르스 가이스나 차신 마차 마당 떠먹미 대지라는 게와고 직송도와 근데 대소 참아 착과단 신바 드니 떠먹미바 인장 어떻게 탈바다 탐지를 진불람도 먼로베 세로스.
So these are the four ways of getting lost or losing, going astray. And then, or deviating, and next is actually going astray, or like three pitfalls. And that is number one, we can go astray, we can fall into the pit, this pit of bliss. So we are led astray by the experience of bliss. Or secondly, we are led astray by the experience of clarity. Or thirdly, we are led astray by the experience of non-conceptuality. So first, being led astray by the experience of bliss. Now, first, we come into contact with the objects of the six sense consciousnesses that we perceive with our eyes and ears and so on. And then that object, to our perception, appears as something desirable, something that we desire, something pleasurable. So we get led astray by this false perception that there is something desirable in that object. And for example, it is just like, for example, when blood is dripping, we see that as something repulsive, filthy. But it is just like that. We see what is actually blood, like dripping blood. We see it like being milk, something very desirable, something good. And that is what is this perception, this belief is leading us astray, because of the attachment that we have to this false perception of pleasure or bliss. And now when or for example, that's one kind. And what also belongs to this category is that when we practice, then often we do it with the intention or the kind of the wish that through this practice, I want to be free from sickness. I want to be free from suffering. And we want that because we are attached to pleasure, to positive experiences. So that's also such an attachment that leads us astray. And then the second one is being led astray by the experience of clarity. And that refers to various abilities that we cultivate through our practice, either physical abilities or also mental abilities, seeing like places and so on. For example, you have a clairvoyant ability that you're able to see beyond all the universes. You see this entire universe, this billionfold. We call it the third order, thousandfold universe. So it might be a bit complicated, but basically it is said that the first order thousandfold universe is 1,000 universes like this one. So you take 1,000 of that. And then the second order thousandfold universe is you multiply that by 1,000 by 1,000. So that number then is the second order thousandfold universe. And then when you take that number and again multiply it by 1,000, then you have a third order thousandfold universe, basically the billionfold universe. In any case, you're able to see that clearly. And, or for example, you're able to hear what other people are saying when they're somewhere else, or you know what they are thinking. So you have these abilities of, or for example, being able to predict what will happen in the future and so on. And so when you discover that ability, then you might feel quite impressed about yourself and think that, well, I have these abilities. I can see what other people are doing somewhere else, and I can know what they are thinking and so on. I can see other places, and that thinking about the wonders of one's abilities is the attachment to the experience of clarity, which is a pitfall, a downfall in the practice. And then the third one is the downfall of non-conceptuality, or being led astray by non-conceptuality. And so here you meditate and you are blocking the concepts with regard to the perceptions of the six sense consciousnesses. And so blocking those concepts then leads to an experience of emptiness. So there is this state without any thoughts, this thought-free, stable state of tranquility. And then you are attached to that state of non-conceptuality. And then gradually, these forms of attachment, those three kinds of attachment, then gradually lead to birth in either the desire realm or the form realm or the formless realm. But they do not lead to the attainment of liberation and all-knowingness, because there is attachment. And so it is said that the non-attachment, not being non-hatred and non-ignorance, so those three are like bliss or happiness. And its opposite then will lead to suffering. So since this is not non-attachment but attachment, there is no way one can attain liberation based on such practices.
yin yang si dong ni je dong la si dong ba ni korang ge dong la ge wa dang dik ba ke nde ba ma dro pa ra tha je ne dong ba ni la ge dik sin de nde ba ma dro pa tha je ne si tene le jum de che de su ba ne na po khan jam to ko wa yin yin si na po khan jam de na shwa na yi de de la ko wa yin yin de yin de ban za me ge wa dang de ngun zin ba dang de yin bo to ni gong ba nam shor ko ro chi za wa yin la si yang de ke dara dong ba ni dong la ge de tan de ba de ma do pa rin do sin yang lem de la che su si ya dang de yin de yang ban za me ge wa de ngun ji de yin bo la yang to ni gong go re sin gong ba nam shor ko ro chi za wa yin la yin yang chu tam ji kun zup de yu la yang dun dam de yu ma re ji sa yang ka ke kun zup la me la dun dam le yu re si de kun zup dun dam ni ka la yu pa me par ta wa ne tham jin de ko wa yin so da yu me ni ka gen ta len de ba de ba
다른 진 가르 타자.
다른 지 요리 시 메레 시 티 니까 타 니 le long so ma je ke yo re sin ta ji ro mere sin
And so then furthermore, then there is also what also can happen is that you conclude that within the state of emptiness, the results of virtue and non-virtue do not really exist. So there's a denial of karma, cause and effect, and that denial of karma, as we also mentioned before, is what then leads you astray, like to the dark side. And so it is necessary to recognize that what needs to be abandoned are the non-virtuous actions. But then when you think that as an antidote I must meditate on emptiness, then that is like a subsidiary deviation here, along with that more coarse one. And then also another way of deviate is there are some, for example, who assert that phenomena exist on the relative level, but they do not exist on the ultimate level. And others say that phenomena do not exist on the relative level, but they do exist on the ultimate level. And then there's some who deny their existence on both levels, or assert them on both levels. And in whichever way one holds it, that is called grasping, a fixation that is fixated on one of the extremes.
Sajak Zimba Sona Tawa means Semke Namtotel Zimba Sona Tawa Mares Gom Jabakasu Yang Sona de Gomba Mares Julam Kakapsutate Drobna Samnik Revate Mandobla Samni Toba Redo Sona de Jungun Julam Mares Yantam Julam. That Julam Seata Katsang Rimbochin de Sonso. Ji dog nipo che minas ji rong do ro ta ni che pa hira mina tene ngone lama danga te long to churpa yin so te che yona tene danga te long to chur ma chu tang kan za ni kha la so yu sa res te tena de server.
So in a Sakya, it says that if there is grasping, then once there's grasping, you're not actually having the view. So when there is grasping at any thought, you're not having the actual view. And meditation is to be free from distraction. So when there is distraction, you're not actually meditating. And regarding the conduct, so that's the view, meditation, and conduct here. Regarding the conduct, the ultimate, or like the effortless conduct, that is without any hopes and fears. So when there is hope of accomplishing something or a fear of not accomplishing something, that is not the genuine conduct that is like effortless. So regarding the conduct, the other day also Rinpoche actually said that when there is no difference between happiness and suffering or pleasure and pain to you, then the instructions of the Guru you've really understood the instructions of the Guru. And if there is a difference, then you have not yet really internalized these instructions. Then there still seems to be actually a separation between yourself, the person, and the Dharma that you're practicing.
That's it. Lakpe kale diagos, nake peba kena, nake sita chirang peba momo zovkasa, momo chirang ke chor sabe ngona, momo ke chirang pasan res, momo shimbo yora, pelega mambo yora, chirang chor momo shimbo saho, te tingona momo ke chirang nupa tang, tutsu da chama pasu char, kage shimbo sagona, lakpa ke kale diagores. Then the Deva Zoba Sanje Compante, top gona, Tampe Chuk certainly, Kawachi, Zunduk, Kawachi, Gores, Zupatan Zunduk. Then the Chiranzo Capchi Zund, the Latina, Takatan Treni Lape Ramrani Yamabo, Nyobian, Samson, Chicken, some root, Yorita, Deacon David, that lepto, Yoritan, Lelavo, Yungoritambo, Tamakale Capo, Yordan, Dordina, until Lelavo, Yungores.
So thank you everyone for being so patient and for being so diligent. Because Shapka Dr. Rangdor has said that if you want to eat delicious food, then first you have to work hard with your hands. Also in Tibetan we say that it's like making momos, those dumplings. It's,
momo?
Momos?
Oh, yeah.
So those dumplings, yeah. So it's not so easy to make them. It's really time consuming, actually. So when you make momos, before you can actually enjoy them, there's a lot of work that you have to do. But you really want to do that because you know that the momo tastes really good. So actually it is said that before you can even eat the momo eats you. It's because the momo eats away your time and your energy, because there's a lot of work. It's not so easy to make momos. And so just like that, in order to attain the state of lasting happiness, the state of perfect enlightenment, we also need to work hard like that. We need to make an effort in the practice of the Holy Dharma. And we need to forbear difficulties with a patient acceptance. So just like you are doing right now, you endure many hardships by having to listen to all of that, and you're very diligent by still listening. Today and yesterday, you have heard so much, and maybe it's overwhelming, and maybe even maybe a bit boring, and even a bit strange to you. But there will be a result coming from that, and it will get easier. In the beginning, it's a bit more difficult, but it will get easier.
Now coming Momo, okay?
Almost coming.
Where you go to Momo? Here or here? You don't know. Next time Lhasa you come here, then you know. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, that are gom to June, she gom to June Samata here, and that gom to June me back. Nyam some. The Nyamni the candles in June the chair. June chair to June Sola New Resitil Bani. Tambotala, Tamarji Shipa Soma, Muzuma dance. Shipa Soma said Sarpa. They wall under here Yungo. The Nyamni the candles in Jong so city Bani the Rindo. Then the Tambo, Tamarji Shipet Dun Musim Bate Garchigaris, Tamarji Soso Shipate, take it dun the Musim Bagarchi des, Di Dune Saja Chimbo Ranga Capso, then Lopon Toxe Parker. The bar, Semni and Rumbota, Sem the Bate, Semni and Rumbota.
So?
Sem the pass the new book, Semnit and Rumbona years. Two down traveling arts to share in your daughter, and some two button travel, and what along arts to share. Lopon Toxe Parker, the bar, Semni and Rumbota, Sem the Bata Nyobo, the Semni and Rumbote, take up so two down and the arts to share, Sem the Bata, the soldier, Dobson's and the Tinanama, Loma Somba, arts to share. Soma Numa Ramam des Soma say at the same Majupa Sarva Numa say at the same De Konani Numa. Then is same Koran Ramji Ramam des Londe Saja Chimbota in those
Sem Dupat and Carasgil.
Sem Dupate, Semnik and Rumbona or is Rumbota, then Rumbote, Sem Toba Nyoto, Sem Toba, Semnik and Rumbote, Dudang and the same in Rumbote, Hotel and the Tuluch. ngerso jo la sari
this nilenda yeah tama pango mari kicha
yeah kotia rang le de jan de sari.
So these are the faults that can arise when we meditate, and so with that understanding, knowing the like downfalls or the pitfalls, that the way in which we can deviate in our practice, then the next point is to sustain continuous state of a flawless meditation. And that has 2 points here. First one is to, first of all, recognize the like fresh or new, ordinary awareness. And secondly is then how to sustain that state. And so first of all, it is most important to recognize this present, fresh moment of this ordinary awareness, this consciousness. In the context of the Mahamudra teachings, the Acharya Doktseba had said that you should, it's like your, those conceptual elaborations are like guests that come to stay in the guest house of your mind, and so you should invite them, you should welcome them and not reject them. That is, you don't pursue them, but you sit with them, you invite them in, and you let them just be. So you are together with them. And through that, actually, the elaborations will uncoil themselves. So to recognize this fresh awareness is that, so once you have invited in this present moment, then within that moment, when you have done that, you settle in this fresh moment of now. And it is that it is fresh, it is innate, and it is self-settled. That is the nature of Mahamudra now. First, this freshness means that it is this present moment in the now, and innate is that it is it's called the suchness, which is the essential, the natural state of your mind. And then self-settled is to let the mind just abide in its natural state. And that is the meaning of Mahamudra, that transcends the intellect.
Se zung yo dang nang zin be sem zung zin je teni drube dub nyope sem deni rumbo da se ten rumbo be da te sem druba dang trawa la ngar so we chor ne kandu sin ngar so go sina soma nyuma rawap som stara ngun song te ti som de ba de nga maung ba de ma ji ba da da ke shi ba sar ba da we de la teni soma la roti tuntela tunchina soma meng ta jang tela sarpa sine meng ta jang si tangpo am ye du ma sem kurang du me shiba ni yimbe ser nyuma si sem kurang shiba ni yimbe ser na nyuma si maung be shiba de maye nam sina shiba de maung be shiba mari sina dusum ji ngowo ni je number year me be ser rawap de debata maung ba tata dusum ji ngowo ni number year wa yo mari sem kurang year me be ser sem kurang rawap de den deni sambe yor mayin be ser tunda de sam tone ti sambe yor mayin be ser deni lolen de ba yin zang 사자 진보인노 사킨 강간 만나는 데서다 로이 취제 론데 도문 통 로이 취대 그 로렌데 도문 통투고 말레스 토미 톰나 사자 진보 톱시 토미 톱시 다 곰지 메바지 곰나 통지 메바지 통 그레스 다때 사자 진보레스
So that was another quote, and so to explain that quote, so first of all, not to allow this maybe this agitated mind or this bored mind and so on in as a guest, is that now there is the outer object that we perceive and the inner perceiving mind. So from that perspective, then there is this guest of the bored and irritated mind that we are inviting in. So then after that, how are we to then sustain or relax in a state that is free from elaborations while we do that? And so that is by remaining in those three aspects. That is the freshness, the innate state, and self-settled state. So the freshness means that there is this moment where that is in the present, where all past thoughts have stopped and future thoughts have not arisen. And that space in between thoughts, this present moment of right now, the consciousness of this present moment is the fresh awareness. So we need to sustain that fresh awareness. And then secondly, it is innate. So we call it this fresh present awareness. And within that awareness actually, even though we say it's fresh, it's new, actually innate also then clarifies that it has been always there since primordial times. It is primordial awareness, so it is innate. And it now in terms of self-settled, the third one, that is, so it's here now and it has always been there. And then you might think that might not be there in the future. So self-settled means then actually that implies that from within the mind, from the perspective of the mind, within the mind, actually there are no three times. The three times are indivisible. The essence of the three times are indivisible. So that is this like self-settled natural state of the mind. And that mind is Mahamudra beyond the intellect. So beyond the intellect because it is not an object or nothing that can be comprehended by the conceptual intellect at all. So it transcends the intellect, and that is Mahamudra. In the Genji's Mahamudra teachings, it says you cannot realize the meaning of what transcends the intellect by means of the intellect. So you have to transcend the intellect to understand what lies beyond the intellect. And it says that when you gain that what cannot be gained, then you have gained or attained Mahamudra. And when you meditate on non-meditation, then you will see what cannot be seen.
Tada nyingong shila kapsa aja chikinar kija tiswa pe ti tatana sem ke nawa na to tin la papa sem cha domdo chu bas mambo chindo si tangune ngun jinya la kando go thong thong chi la ro chi si nyingong gi la tsu me la so tenin kimpo sungyor sen tere ten nam to sem sa ta che semni tongbar tha che tongba de la ta so tan risma che ba tupa tha tham ji tan trawa sem ram yin sarwa dewa tongba se ji ris ta mo kete mo mani o tan da sa ri ti ha ko song dan do tan dor chama nor de yan da chang do sek som yel de
직som de deva seva tongba re
deva sarwa tong tambo nam to se ya de tang ne sem de sem na tha je sem세야 sem니 때 똥바린도 똥바세야 되는 데단 된는지바 사와 대와 똥바 사똥 송주 대똥 송주 sem코랑 람진 대와 대병안에 사와안에 똥바 세야지오라 단 도르는 디네로도 하고나 디타는 카찬들만 뭐 람도야테 디 하고야 치들인도와 저는 야보 하고선
in lunch break, one sister asked me a question, and she said that now we've heard a lot of instructions now, and now how we can understand that appearances are the mind and so on, and how we can uproot concepts and doubts from within the mind. So she asked, would it be possible to say it just in simple terms, briefly, to give a summary of that? And so Kempo was translating at that time in lunch break. So to give you the essence of all that, basically all there is to that is that first you need to understand, really resolve that the thoughts in your mind are the mind. And then after you have resolved that, you resolve that that mind then is also empty. And that empty state is without any limitation, any biased views, and without any conceptual elaboration. So it basically is the nature of your mind that is blissful, that is clear, and that is empty. So we talk about empty bliss and empty clarity. So first, the nature of your mind is blissful, and the nature of that bliss is clarity. It is clear, and that clarity is empty. So this is how, in essence, we can understand all of what we have just mentioned. We have said a lot, but all of these things that we have said are really only the intention is for us to understand just that. That's the purpose of hearing all these instructions, just to know that. And so after responding to her, she said she had understood.
Yes. Oh yeah, that is him thing about the young. Drupon Lama years in Europe. Drupon Lama years the main here. Okay, then. Oh, the talk that is same condition drama rabe mambo je yures. They yure then Lord dina. The long range in the Yago sorry could answer Kunichiba the Tonda. Lord dina Chita Nang Nuju Honde Chu Tamdi Rank Sem Dance. Sem de Jang, Mo Tongba Dang, Shota than a Jiba Chandwa. Then Nawa Dang, Sem Nisun Nawa Yang, Memek Batang, Sem the Nawa Nisun Nawa Yang, Memek Batang. Yeba, Meba Soji, Duba, Tamje Dan Jawar, Toba, Dura, Hakova, Toba. Hatana, Wang Yepagapsata, that had the dog and Dutcher. Then Hatana, Wang Yepagapsasa. Then take it in the here in Waldo, Yishin in the Chita, Dorian Uncle Chertaba, Dodder had seen London Tarjin Shivani, Churayan at the pa, she song read that it on that and under Hindo. Tambo Yishin in the Chita, yet Dumek, Shiban, Deni, Sem Drupon Tatam did a Dawa, number Metope, Ningbo Chicha, say at the Yumsintis and a bit Chichawas, number Metope, Nimbona Chichawa. Then Jinji Meshik Badans, Tanam Toda Numo, but Jinji Meshik Badans. Take it to that. Sona, Hako Sona, Hoat, Garan and Jom Ronos. Take a young Ramboche to Watan Santiton Dakar Heson. Bona, Hoa and Jomshe, Matona, Yangile, Deba, Jom Beseros, the to Matana, then Yangile, Deba, and Jom the Hakotu Mares, the to Son and Hoa Tarana, Meba Chasin upon Jom Dores. Dordina, this on the Kunza Mulana, Deni, Regna, Sanjete, Marek Semjin Koran Chance, that do not take the window, Tona, Koran Joms, Deni Regna, Sangi, Taran Sangi, Marek Semjin Koran Chate, Matodan, Yangin and the Pataya, Yomru, send Dorje, said to Nate. Honde Nik Ramji, Yimpena, Nimbos, Siban Kamson Kova, Hivanyang and Depa Nik Ramji, Yimpena, Nimbos. Namka Kadota Yeblen de Patawas in Namkala Kadota Yebda, Tantata Usa Yomara de Patawa Dunjina, the Namka de Bayan, Namka and Sombas. yang nam ke cher ta we shi sung ba ta na nam kha lan ta ta bu yer me pe tuen ji na cher ta we ta ta yu me pe ta cher ta we nyu mu pa ni ti ngor to pe chama ma pang par ta pe ser de nyu mu pa ni ta sem ngo ti ke to pe chama ma pang par ta pe ser na de si de nyu mu pe Horven Tarasin Jings Yangile Kovale Tarasin Jing Yangile de Pachimbola Ripena Tarasin Shivanis. Oh, yeah. That is in the other song. That is Nandio Natin Dog Capsa, Carpatami, some of the Tosa, the Bajang Mambo Landora, the Ni Ring, the Sanji, the Marisim Jinkoan Johnson, Jikti Sungunga, Ransem, one to Jordana, Tami, some Zumbo Das. Tela Tambo, Dog Capsa, Carpatami, some of the Tosa, the Bajang, the Ramji Sanji Compound, Top Go Lahora. Jikti Sungunga, Rank Sem, the Nelo, the Hakotana, Carpatami, some say at the Zumarin, those State Kanza Sosola, Melarepana, Carpa Pacho, Messechilla, Lord Sumchi Egyptian and the Sanji Comatosola. Tenete, Dutati, Teni Ringna, Siad and Deris on some Gachin Bochek. Kejik kick, Zosangi, Kejik kick, Sebdasi, and all the Tepechakar and Zokina, Sakina.
Trumpeting the matter.
On the song. Junjunan, Japan Sinjuna, or in Japan Sinjuna. Kejik kick, Zosangi, Kejik kick, Sebdasi, Zeolatati, and the Kejik Kigla. Condenite on two songs. Yamudwa, you take the pay. That is.
In a cute, the Mariti, Tumtashing a lago.
Malam never in Domino.
So then there's different methods to understand, to realize the nature of the mind. And now it is approached differently according to the sutras and tantras. According to the sutra path, we have the 4 tenet systems, and within that there are a lot of different views and opinions on how to understand the mind. But now, in brief, in the scriptures, it is said that the outer and the inner, that is the outer universe and the inner sentient beings, and basically all phenomena of samsara and nirvana are one's own mind. That is to be resolved. And then that mind too, in essence, is emptiness. It's empty of self-nature. And so now there is a dualistic perception of there being an appearance and the mind, but although there is such a perception, actually nothing can be found that has any of such characteristics. So basically the view according to the sutra path is free from all elaborations, from the limiting views of existence and non-existence and all conceptual elaborations. So that according to the sutra path. According to the tantric path, when we receive the 4 empowerments and so on in the secret mantra, the nature of the mind is explained as it is it is greatly subtle primordial awareness that is like the vajra in the center of the sky. It is immaculate, peace-giving, and you yourself are its father. So for the first one, it says it is greatly subtle primordial awareness. So primordial, as it has been there since primordial times, consciousness has always been there, and it is free from all limits, and therefore it is like the sky. It is without any center or boundary, like the sky. It is like a vajra because it cannot be destroyed by any condition. When you realize the nature of mind, then that will right there and then destroy samsara. Actually, regarding that, I asked Rinpoche a question the other day, and Rinpoche said that when you realize it, then by realizing it, that realization of that destroys in that very moment, that destroys samsara in that very moment. And not realizing the nature of mind, that destroys nirvana. Also in the Samantabhadra prayer, it says, when you know it, you are a Buddha. Not knowing it, you are a sentient being wandering in samsara. So it is in that very moment this one moment is what destroys either samsara or nirvana. So therefore, it is like a vajra. And it is like the center, like in the center of the sky. It is because it is the essence, the core essence. It is the core essence of samsara and nirvana. Like the sky, because it transcends form and shape and color and so on. And it is without center or boundary. So you look at this state, which is like space without center and boundary. And then within that, the thoughts and afflictions that arise, when you realize their nature, then they do not need to be abandoned. No stains, no faults need to be abandoned. They are immaculate when you see their true nature. So therefore it is that the state is also immaculate. And then it is like peace-giving. It is that when you reach the furthest limits of realizing that, then you attain the state of nirvana. So it is freedom-giving. So according to the sutra path, in the sutra path it is said, in order to attain enlightenment, one must first of all gather the accumulations for 3 endless aeons. And this whole time one must accumulate merit and purify obscurations and so on. And now that in contrast to the Samantabhadra prayer, where it says, when you know it, you're a Buddha. If you don't know it, you're a sentient being wandering in samsara. So to clarify that, Lord Chigden Sumgön had said that when you truly realize the nature of your mind, then even the accumulations that need to be done for 3 endless aeons, even that becomes false, not truly existing. So according to the sutra path, this is that's how we gradually attain enlightenment. But look at Milarepa, for example, like no need to speak about aeons even in this lifetime, within 30 or 40 years, he attained enlightenment. So when you realize it, you are a Buddha. So that is how Rinpoche had explained it. And in a different text called Expressing the Names of Manjushri, it is said that in an instant, in one moment, you are a complete Buddha, and in the next moment, in another moment, you are a sentient being. So it is just the difference of one moment, a momentary difference. And so a momentary difference between samsara and nirvana. So knowing that actually is really excellent.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh. The Tarsin Shivani Deni Rank Par Savala Yinja Tint Me Sitati Rang Rinpoche Soso Rank Regulmato Ying Tenderis in Tenya Yomares Telabake Rang Nilan Sunde Shipar Su Rang Ripate Rang Nilan Sunde Shipar Hakuachi Sisumbadan Rave Serer Churang Yang Ne Pa Sisongres Churang Yang Ne Pa Hisumbatabo Dorna Semti Ramwap Tang Semkorang Ramwap Tang Rang Shi Deni Tusum je tope mahle par sendepa mang tata tusum je tope mahle par ngat nar ma top chenyung ju ba khazang nge china ba shyen ba pe kukpa ke pram suba na ji kukpa langa mo ji te na korang twa nyong ren de sin ne ti ten je yo mare nar martop jang nyong yu yu la kurang chua nyong ho cham to mi ting buang to pa me pa ting buang to pa ji sun dang ba mai pe shi pa jin ling wa de ni thamar ji shi pa wo de yang de khona ni rap de mene pe ju le sti pe cha ji inde don na thamar ji shi pa Shipaos, the Jutinana Tamarji Ship Ramji, Dreven Cho Mapju Yana, Kosam Drev, Tamarki Shipa Ramji, Te Nana, Teni Yana, Tin Drevatella, Sem Mapju Yana, Kosam Drevatos, Katang Shinekaps, Sem Mapjuna De Chomanyona Tang Lang Batate. Shine rapta dem belandong se atensari te mapju par yana teni sanje chukulong ko truk sum kendreva te top teni sem korang mayan rangal lu na parasin yishi yinchen te rangal lu yana parasin ba yishi na shidan ludupchi kara yang mato je yang masem shik kana yang mato namto maji jela yang masem shik je pa ta ju pa mabzi sem koran ramjin lopang la shos mapju pa ne jemi ramjin zu ju pa te tek zobji ya ya te zobji wa mapju pa te ngana ya ze kores tatana longri ma bondo te la de tona ji pa se naro pa ke tan rang ke sem la tu sem ni jeriang ma do pe Dieu te meeting yolendes Tuda namkung ovoni lando Dieu te meeting yolende tuda namkung ovoni Tara shirsina naps maksam jumi shrap parorsi machi menga namkung ovoni laura soso rana yishi chuyorwa tusum jarbi yomna sansalo se ta tinda wangsari na sam Dieu te me ba shrap te paro de sema machi pa manga pa machi menga namkung ovota jinga ne som dan trawa so rang rik pe chuyor tusum jarbi yom te ta tusum jarbi yom sra ta te rindo
And so this is something that you can only really know yourself, and no one can actually show it to you or explain it to you. Tilopa has said that look properly perfectly at yourself. So previously in that quote we said you are your own father. So you look at the natural state of the mind. So the mind settles in its natural state, and that state remains undefiled by any concepts pertaining to the three times of past, present, and future. And then you just experience it, remain within it. And it is something that can only be experienced. It cannot be expressed verbally. As we mentioned yesterday, it is like a mute person eating molasses. If you give a person who can't speak some sweets, then they eat it and they know what it is, they know how it is, but they can't tell you, they cannot express it. So it's something like that. You have to experience it yourself. The ordinary consciousness, the ordinary awareness is the mind where you do not follow, so it's the present moment of mind where you do not follow any thoughts whatsoever. It's the natural, present state of the mind in that moment. And within that state, you just need to remain. So it is also said in a different tantra called the utterly non-abiding tantra of suchness. It says that the nature of this ordinary consciousness is the realizing that nature is the supreme fruition. By remaining within it without altering it in any way, letting it be as it is in its natural state, you will attain the 3 kayas as a result. Also, during the shamata teachings yesterday, we said that you let the mind rest in this uncontrived state, this unfabricated, unaltered state, and you let it be there at ease. So you release it in a state of complete ease. So you release yourself within this natural, unaltered state. And sustaining that state of release, you will attain the fruition of the 3 kayas, the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. Then if you continue to settle with ease in that state, then finally, in this text it says, you will reach the furthest limits of your potential, of primordial awareness. Also, Nagarjuna had said that do not conceptualize, do not think about anything at all. Do not engage in placement or analysis. Just let the mind be in its natural state at ease. And that state is the unborn, uncontrived natural state. Uncontrived or contrivance really means that you're altering it and you're doing something to it. So you do not alter it, but you let it just be as it already is in its natural state. So that is what Naropa had said. Look at that mind. Look at your own mind, and by looking at your own mind, you will see that it does not possess it does not consist of anything, any inherent existence. It is something that you experience, but that is inexpressible. It is not an object that can be understood conceptually. So therefore, it is free from conceptual elaborations like the sky. Also, in the Perfection of Wisdom and the Heart Sutra and so on, it says it is inexpressible, being beyond words and thoughts. Its essence is like space, and it is beyond arising, abiding, and cessation. And so then it says, I prostrate to the great mother of all the Buddhas of the 3 times. Or in other words, that space-like nature that is inexpressible, that itself is this Prajna Paramita, or the great mother. So it is something that you can only know through experiencing it yourself, knowing it yourself.
Dela yang delo naro sin tatini mambo chindo tis huyana ye marpa lozak de sondo gom de mi de yeng de mi gomya yo maris yenya yo maris Jin de mi jin yu de mi dan deri jinya yo maris dan ro si juya mi nasam ju mi laura Gangi Jangnen Sönde me Gangi Jangnen den kansun den dersini demes tate karesina hakosa lama jin chetetar tos lama danga dang soso kete pa muti top de ketini te to gormato so Gangi Jangde dan derisine den to mares Sönde me Gangi Jangnen Sönde me so Gangi den derisine den to mares Tane tijila Jibsu malare pa sare saja chimbo gom deso saja chimbo nyamni sipu kapso lunga ke gebjur matun shes luta nga ke gewa tang gebjur te mabzis meto yihi yani yus sem number meto pe yihi te yan roya ni ka yores Jimsin tela tene sem mapchupa nyuma sem ramji nyuma tingang tene gom jan de gores Shida lunga keleka siya yo mares. Ta tujila marpa mila gambo pak. Jeju mazi lopar hyo sem telan sosu ke zopju mazi ne ko sem ko ramji rama lupo ngala yas. Tanyur Mazi Ranga Hyo, then make it Taya, Tanyuriata, Techuya Mazi, Ranga Yas, Yila Mazi, Memeko, Yilan Delan de Mazi, Mibami Petola Hyolando. Ta Ye Pamotobake, Tashin, Jena, Umado, Stakazan, Pe Mamboche. Semna na totina papa sem tsa dondo che pasin ta shin jena tini sochi ngubo ma drobyo mares yebyo ngubo ma droba yenzang yebyo mares yemi ba yenzang khado yo mares tini sosu semna me yolende pares lo ye reina tok don jo sta te ching dok samya ting na te tok na ye sta ching tina mapchu ran sar ya ten de sem cheju ma zin ran sar ya Londe Chumatong, Londe Bachik Lok, Tonto Maris, Loite Hakorena, Dogna Giris, Jikting Bus, Aramek, Tamarki Shipa, Mapupa, Rangripa, Senamado, Tamarki Shipa, Senamado, Te Mapupara, Tatar Chirama, Tarakare, Dana, Jetaran Dopa, Dela. Teni saja chimpo sevares semche churang imaiba dekona tembe changus te tarang teni tembe junjongores temba ke junjong sinde temba da shibgin sene ni yorwa temba te huma puni pelindu temba te lok shigin de zo se pelang ta tingsa saja han lok mashile mambodwa temba de moda shigin de kalowa na shigin ke moda de soma to na moda jago nyumba rwa kawana jandu ma yeng chane rwa ho tanda de kona temba ke jango res temba ke shigin ya donna tamar jarwa yangu ba kan donna tamar ji shipa sujang zoma zeba angso리 반데 수저 그런 것이 받아라 너나 타마르지 시바 수장 조마 제바 좁지 마제바 ang소리 반데 코랑 셈 코랑 랑기 코랑 등어 시바텔라 사자 진보 곰세바 곰치 곰하고 세바리 셈 코랑 그 코랑 오 시바테마 또 이게 젠데단들이 있어야돼 말레스 야 mambo chabere.
So there's a lot of quotes in here by Tilopa, Naropa, and so on. And so just to mention a few, for example, Marpa has said that there is nothing to meditate upon and there is nothing to be distracted by. There's nothing to be mindful of, so to say, because it is inexpressible. It is beyond word and thought. And no one even in the three worlds of existence can show it to you. It cannot be shown. And how is it understood? It is understood through receiving the instructions from the kind guru, and also through one's own faith and devotion in that guru. And this is how one can realize it. And aside from that, no one can tell you really about it. Also, Milarepa said in the context of Mahamudra meditation, he said, do not make an effort in practicing even virtue with body and speech while practicing Mahamudra, because then there is a danger that the non-conceptual primordial wisdom will again disappear. So without doing anything, physically or verbally, you should allow the mind to just rest in a meditative state that is unaltered and natural, the innate state. And then, so that was Milarepa, and then Gambopa had also said, do not place the mind, do not analyze the mind, but let it be in a state of ease naturally, without changing it or fixing it in any way. Let it be in its natural state, as it is. So there is no thing that can be found within that. Just let it be as it is, and don't become distracted by different kinds of postures and eye gazes and so on. Just let the mind settle in the natural state without mentally engaging in anything. Just remain within the completely concept-free state without mental engagement. And so that's Gampopa. And Pangmo Drupal had said, as we continue to analyze and dissect and try to figure out and so on, actually, finally, in the end, we conclude that there is no substantial true existence to be found. As we mentioned the other day and before also, that there are so many analyses that we go through to understand that the thoughts are mind, and how to uproot the concepts and doubts and so on from our mind. But after we have gone through all of these ways of analysis, in the end, the conclusion is that nothing truly actually exists. So there is no form, therefore it has no shape. And if it doesn't have form or shape, then also it doesn't have color. So it is not such an object, it's beyond that. And therefore, if you conceptualize it, if you try to explain it with the intellect, then it becomes like poison. So therefore, it is best to let the mind rest in the natural state without altering it. As you mentioned before, the truth that lies beyond the intellect cannot be seen by means of the intellect. Or not just before, if you try to understand it, to really comprehend it with the intellect, it becomes poisonous. Or Jigden Sumgön also has said that your own ordinary consciousness, let it be in its natural uncontrived state in the present moment, as it is right now. Whatever is its state, the natural state right now, that state is Mahamudra. So and that state then must be sustained. So that state, the natural present moment, then sustain awareness of that state. And so speaking of awareness, actually, there is actually a twofold division between mindfulness and alertness. And it is like that mindfulness is like the car, for example, and alertness is like the one who drives the car. And so they definitely need to be together, especially the one who drives the car. So if there's no alertness, then the car alone will also, if it goes off on its own, it will just crash. So you need this alertness. And that must be sustained. And what it sustains then is this ordinary present moment of consciousness that is completely natural without doing anything to it. So to recognize that natural state, that recognition is called the state of Mahamudra, and then to meditation is then to sustain that state.
Oh yeah.
You understand?
Churang pete pa sayati tatin rhedi kene samate pe yabotin tan dord ba sama yongsu zoba de darang chiran so tesena de chosares nemda doa de pe han sayari nodra wang yipakaps dara wang koru sibakaps kare resina wang de za chin bodan snap chi bon ya de Lama toba dan dimba, Loma tani deba dan dimba. Ta teke ti wang ko du deba jibo kan de mo do so su dripa sama jang chok sa de ndi pen marpa ke milare pala wang ko kapsa wang tima che ko ro khona tiraran ni tor thorwa tani Wang Yippa Kapsitini Moto Yarida Sengo hakotya. Diktin sungun ke wang dong ju le chin to ba yin song wang dong da de so su sem ju la hako na tring ne wang de de to yu res. Pam pa da to mang go le ya ya den chun ri pe zam re lan do. Te du tara da marpa la wang ji ma to ma da de wang ji pu ka su te korang o tu ne ta rang na sa ja tim bu o tu song la pen na te lo pa ka na ro pa la wang ko gu ma re ham go jin ram ja shu de ta rang tin ba ja ya su de ko sa ja tim bu to ba che de ya ta da xie ya yu re ting chang ta da se na yang chen na dong ji ro ma re la me dong song sin yang ka ba dong ho te de ten da.
So actually, that quote here we just mentioned from the fourth empowerment, that actually summarizes it really well, all of those things that we have mentioned yesterday and today. So that quote was again that primordial awareness or wisdom is extremely subtle. It is like the center, like the Vajra in the center of the sky. It is immaculate, peace granting, and you are your own father. And actually, everything is shown just within that. That's really all you really need. It's actually quite amazing that within that short line we can really have everything that we need of all those instructions. Now, it comes from the fourth empowerment. So regarding the empowerment, now we receive an empowerment and we call the empowerment something very precious, and we receive a lot of blessings. And for that to really happen, first of all, you need to have a lama, a guru who possesses realization, and then also a disciple who possesses faith. So when you give an empowerment, it is not sufficient to just have faith, however. Also, we must practice to purify the obscurations and to accumulate merit. For example, in the case of Marpa Milarepa, when Marpa conferred empowerment on Milarepa, he actually only did it once, and at that moment already he was liberated. He realized the meaning of the fourth empowerment. So during the fourth empowerment, we are introduced to the nature of mind. And also, Jigten Sumgön had said, only when the meaning of the empowerment arises in your mind stream, only then have you actually received the empowerment. And that is to say that when you are blessed during the empowerment with the vase or the dorma, these are actually only like the sex symbol that they characterize some certain meaning. But actually, it is necessary to understand the meaning of the empowerment. Just like Milarepa, who during the fourth empowerment, at that very moment realized Mahamudra, or even more direct was the way Naropa had realized Mahamudra through Tilopa. He didn't even receive an empowerment. Tilopa just hit him over the head with a shoe, with a sandal, and then he passed out, and when he again came back to consciousness, he had realized Mahamudra. And so nowadays, of course, we can't really do that, because if a lama would just like hit you over the head with their shoe, they probably would be sent to jail directly.
3 years retreat. Then the Taraten Semke Ramjin the Tosona, Horan Jongoris, Matona Yang and then by Jongoris and the Unesena, Honden Yikaramjin, Benimbo Landua, Hora Seate, Yene Payaji Yomares, Hora Seate Tachikahin Papangue, Yang and the Passeate Yin Tsor, Drupgoya Yomares, Hora Pang the me, Yan de drop the miss. So te tosona tarang khora pangser nyang in de padupser is teni ring na sanje de marek semji khoran chos pe te yabudu.
So when you realize the nature of mind, that destroys samsara in that moment. When you do not realize the nature of mind, that destroys nirvana in that moment. And so regarding now the nature of samsara and nirvana, actually samsara is nothing that must be abandoned deliberately. And nirvana is also nothing that must be accomplished deliberately. You just need to realize its nature, the nature of mind. And when you realize it, then in that very moment, you have already abandoned samsara naturally. You have already accomplished nirvana simultaneously. Or, as we said before, when you see it, you are a Buddha. Not seeing it, you are a sentient being wandering in samsara. This Samantabhadra prayer. So that's really an excellent example.
Tembe junjong gores namjur gomba mai gomba ngun tu chun gomba cho sindu cham nyam nawa ta ripat ha ko re te pe de ore nyam naun ra te yan ro sin yaka naun sin chi hung do hote nyama chan ko kale me res yaka naun sin sa gang de chi mu pa ra chi yo
yakala
naun kala la
al na me ko re ha ko re
folk
hakoson is jokas
te ko limbo nda te ko tulo
ko ina yakala khare yongre
nawun sina chi yung
na ko ro ina yakala khare chi
te yung ko ra ina yang ko nima chan de chokan ha mi do res chi yung ko re te mi do res ko ke tek sem ke ko de limbo sin de tulo tin do pu ni limbo ma bo ja re tulo rindo ra the jeans tin sang kang ne shi yo ra te limbo dia bo chen da ma tulo rindo limbo ja ra te ya bo ma ja na ko chik ling yang ko do che mo chen da ma da si ra shin dong dan pho ko limbo da te ko ne do sin ka rimbo chin de song ra yi shi me dang da wa la yi shi se te me na ye re Tempe meso yang chi sem tempa de ke teni meso te yang se me su go le sa ja simbo so su to ba de ji sem ge ne lo de ha ko na te ga se ya ge teni la ro re sin do de chek te ri yang se te si go re
yena ti kara ti thulo ti kara song song
ko wa limbo na te sa ha ko ya te limbo na ye re te ko ba de nyam na chin na wa da ma da chare de na u na ye re yan do re te Yang go re la do na. With a hole in Lama Dodge.
With a horn, yeah.
With a hole.
So then we understand the nature of mind, and then once we really know the nature of mind, then we also have to sustain an ongoing state of being aware of this state of our true nature. As we said before, meditation is not something to meditate upon, not an activity of meditating on something, but meditation is to habituate. And if you habituate, that is actually, if you habituate non-meditation, that's actually the supreme meditation. And so now there is an understanding that we gain, and also an experience that arises from that understanding. And so we should not cling to them. So the various appearances that arise, or visions and so forth, they pay not attention to them, because they just will disappear like the morning mist in summertime. When the sun rises and the mist is already gone. So that is the nature of those appearances and visions that we see. And then also, you cannot just let it be with an understanding, like understanding the nature of the mind, for example. It's not enough. If you leave it with an understanding, it is like you're putting a patch on your ripped jeans. Like nowadays, we are ripping our jeans intentionally, but the assumption here is that we don't do that. So that it happens when we play, for example, and we are unmindful and we put a patch on it, and then again it rips open again. We put another one on, and so on. So this is how it is if we only leave it with understanding. So we must sustain. Also, Rinpoche said that awareness, wisdom awareness, is like fire, and that fire of awareness must be must be sustained. It must be nurtured, so it grows again and again. So if you just let it be with thinking, now I have understood Mahamudra, I know the nature of mind, then it will again vanish. So once you have understood it, then you must repeatedly, again and again, sustain that state.
다 튼지마 들어가서 간도스는 때 냠는데 다 좋은 거 어때 쉬어야 인터넷 가서 나로나 다 사자 진봉 조차 사자 진봉 유로지.
So then our next session, then we will just go to the last point on how to really reach the furthest limits of that practice. And so now we have all now been introduced to Mahamudra. Now we have recognized Mahamudra, and we can go to break now.
Thank you. 네, 시골에. 좀. 그래.
They were still doing dishes. So they were still doing dishes. A whole desert flood.
Afterwards, I asked him to check
I didn't come to that session here. What I did was did you find a place? A house? Mine is a red one. I might have one brought in.
I have a question. Did you go to the mall?
Yes, I did. And so did she.
Last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand that checks out should be here.
Yes.
Did he sit there?
I don't know, because I wasn't here for that part.
I wasn't here for that part.
We heard the idea of having surgery, so.
No, I'm sure he sat there. I don't know.
His picture is right there.
They say when he's here, they.
Yeah, but there's no chair there.
Yeah, but he keeps it up.
Yeah, they fixed it up.
Would be one to us.
Okay.
Let me go. Christina would be.
Christina should be the one.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you coming to tea?
I asked Juanita if you could come to find out where Sarah is. Did you find out?
Nope.
She said that she that we were supposed to be ready.
The office would know. Christina would, for sure.
Yeah, I didn't make it over here for the smoke offering. By the time I got here, they were already outside.
Oh, sorry.
No. Because of Mama.
Oh.